The beacons are lit! Montferrat calls for aid!
And the Chateau de la Roquette will answer. Located halfway between the foothills of the Cévennes Mountains and the Mediterranean Sea lie the dramatic ranges of the Pic Saint-Loup to the south and the Montagne d'Orthus to the north. They flank a narrow valley going west to east. It is here that we find the Chateau de la Roquette. The ruins are dramatically perched between sky and vegetation, high on their ridge west of the Montagne d'Orthus. On the opposite side, along the eastern ridges of the Pic Saint-Loup, stands its big brother, the fortress of Montferrat. As we will find out, the history of these two castles was intertwined for centuries.
Originally, the two castles were closely aligned. Though the first mention of the castle of La Roquette was only halfway through the 12th century, its original construction was probably older than that. The castle of Montferrat was the major castle of the region and served as the administrative center of the district under the Counts of Melgueul. La Roquette was a smaller castle, or castrum, within the same district. Their close proximity to each other undoubtedly allowed close cooperation during times of war, where one would signal the other when help was needed.
This cooperation changed during the 12th and 13th centuries, however, when La Roquette became involved in several regional conflicts. In one early dispute, the lord of the castle supported Guillaume VI of Montpellier in a conflict against his feudal overlord, the Count of Melgueul. After this rebellion, the Count seized the fortress and partially destroyed its defenses before returning it a few years later with restrictions on rebuilding the ruins. Later, in the 13th century, the castle again became part of a rebellion against their new overlord, the Bishop of Maguelone. The local lords refused the bishop's authority, and the dispute became so serious that the Pope threatened the rebels with excommunication.
After scaling the steep hillside, we arrive in the outer courtyard, where a few buildings with arrow slits survive. The main castle looms higher still. The round tower supported by corbels is mighty impressive. A small path leads along the northern ridge of the mountain towards the main castle's entrance.
A key turning point in its history came in 1240 when Beatrix, daughter of the Lord of La Roquette, married Guillaume de Pilhan, who was a royal official serving the King of France. From then on, the Château de la Roquette became fully integrated into the royal strategy of domination over the Languedoc region, and more specifically over the county of Melgueul. The castles of La Roquette and Montferrat went from close allies to bitter rivals.
The earlier restrictions of rebuilding the castle were forgotten. Under the impetus of Guillaume de Pilhan, the castrum gradually transformed into a royal castle. It was modelled after the citadels of Carcassonne and Peyreperthus, whose fortification works he oversaw. The architecture of La Roquette is strongly inspired by these castles. La Roquette boasts a monumental 100 square meter hall which was covered by a 7 meter high pointed barrel vault. This vast partition space served numerous purposes: the exercise of power, a kitchen with a cistern, a monumental fireplace for heating, and more. The openings, adorned with window seats, are wide and plentiful. The castle we see today was built at that time.
I actually love how the canopy of this tree makes it look like it's finishing the roof, like the vaulted ceiling. Good tree.
We can certainly see the likeness with Peyreperthus, a granite monumental fortress neatly following the rocky contours and pierced with windows. That's very similar to what we remember from our visit. You can see what we mean by following the link on your screen or in the description.
Though certainly beautiful, the construction was not aimed at an effective defense. There was no portcullis, no machicolation. The large windows were largely unprotected, and so forth. This is in stark contrast to the castle of Montferrand, which was heavily fortified around the same time. La Roquette served more as a symbolic projection of royal power aimed at the lords of the Languedoc. Eventually, tensions eased between the two castles when the French crown secured other routes to the Mediterranean, reducing the need to challenge the bishop's territory. Interestingly enough, it was only then that the lower enclosure was built.
There probably was a very ornamental fireplace up there. You can still see some traces, or I don't know, maybe it was a vault? It looks like there was fire over there though.
Because of the shift in relations, the two fortresses would once again align more closely. The bishop and the French crown shared common interests, especially against new threats such as Protestant forces during the Wars of Religion. During the 16th century, the Château de la Roquette was gradually abandoned and left to the elements, as its owners sought a more comfortable residence in one of the nearby towns. Not much later, Montferrand would follow the same fate. For centuries, these two castles watched each other across the valley like brothers, sometimes allies, sometimes rivals, but always part of the same story. Very nice castle here at Château de la Roquette, also known as Vivières. Time for the arbitrary subjective castle score. I'm gonna say a 10. It's a pretty castle. Love these seats here. A lot of seats, a lot of people could sit. What did you think?
I think it's a pretty castle, but not quite a 10 in my book. I just missed some decorative details.
Okay.
It was not a 10 in my book, it makes it a 9.
Well, what did you think? Leave it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and we were the History Hackers.
Like, comment, subscribe, and all the good YouTube stuff if you want to see more of these kind of castles.
And we will see you next time. Bye!